Okay, so let's have a look at adverbs. Adjectives, you all remember, describe nouns. Adverbs describe everything else. And I've even forgotten to write one more thing on the list here. They can describe whole clauses as well, or phrases. Yeah, well, clauses, in fact. No, let's stick with clauses. They can describe whole clauses, or you might model them in your head as describing the verb in the main clause. But let's list what they describe. They describe verbs firstly, which is exactly what everybody remembers that they describe. That they describe verbs because it's in the name, yeah, adverbs. So they certainly describe verbs. They can also describe adjectives and determiners. Okay, and a lot of people don't realise that, and we'll look at this in the examples below. And they can also describe other adverbs. So adverbs can describe a lot of different things. Let's see them doing exactly that right here. And yeah, I've just realised I've forgotten to put firstly, secondly here, and that's important. Let me quickly write that, otherwise I'll forget to talk about it later. So, she plays the piano beautifully. Now, first thing you should remember is adverbs very often end in ly. Not always at all. You know, often is an adverb. Seldom is an adverb. Rarely is an adverb that does end in ly. But there are lots of adverbs that don't end in ly. Never is an adverb. And there are some adjectives like friendly, a friendly dog, a friendly man, which are not adverbs, they're adjectives. And so they're disguised as an adverb, but actually they're an adjective. So be careful. Sly, yes, sly is not an adverb, it's an adjective. So just because it's got ly at the end, it doesn't mean it's an adverb. And if it hasn't got ly on the end, it doesn't mean it's not an adverb. Yeah, so let's make that clear right from the start. But look at this. She plays the piano beautifully. Which word is beautifully describing? Clearly, it's describing how she plays. So this is a typical adverb describing the verb in the sentence. What about the next example? He is incredibly lucky. Which word is incredibly describing? Well, it's describing how lucky you are. And lucky is an adjective describing the subject of the verb, because this is a subject complement, yeah? This is a copular verb. And so lucky describes the he, and incredibly describes the word lucky, which is an adjective. So this is an adverb. Adverbs also describe adjectives, very important. And you see that when we say things like brightly lit. Lit is like an adjective here, although I agree it's really a participle from the verb to light. But brightly is describing lit, incredibly is describing lucky, so it's an adverb, okay? So be aware that adverbs also describe adjectives and determiners, yeah? Here are some examples of an adverb describing a determiner. I have very few marker pens, yeah? I have few marker pens, I don't have many, but I have very few marker pens. The very is describing the few, which is a determiner, yeah? So adverbs like very can describe, they can describe adjectives, very good, very bad, or they can describe determiners, very few, very little, okay? Very many, yeah? So they do describe determiners as well, which is why I've written that there. But also they can describe adverbs. Have a look at this. He is driving unbelievably slowly.